Hey, Shamim. We're going to get started in a few minutes' time. We're just obviously setting up with all the panelists. So thanks for tuning in early. Hope you're having a good day so far. Hi, Melissa. Thanks for the note. We're going to get started at 12. So thanks very much for being very punctual and turning up early. Really appreciate it. But just getting set up. So we'll get started soon. Thanks.
Hello. Hi, Robin.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good. Very good. It's a really nice day in Melbourne. Are you based in Melbourne as well?
I am, yeah. We're all working in the space at home. Where are you based?
Melbourne as well. Yeah, it's good fun. Good fun. We've just as we've kind of kicked off the webinar, notification has just gone out, but we've got a couple of attendees who are just sitting on standby until we get started at 12 o'clock. So yeah.
I just was on a call with Bala and the other three, so
Fantastic.
we did a quick overview.
So all come in 3, 2, 1. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Hey, Palandran.
Hello, Robin. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Good. Got Anushka here already.
Hello again. Yeah. Let's set up.
It's all working.
Yeah. How's your day been, Robin?
Good. Yeah, it's been good so far. It's nice when it's good weather outside, but I mean, look, we're working from home, but either way, it's even worse in England when it's hot. Everyone just turns happy, and like it's so rare that it's really warm and lovely. So yeah, it's nice. It's very nice.
Yeah.
How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm looking at the sun outside and the windy day. I can't get out because I've been so busy working away.
Yeah.
Melissa has joined. Hey, Melissa. Awesome. So we're expecting about 20 people today.
Yeah, we should be, but I think we're waiting on, is it Anwar to join us as a panelist?
Yeah, Anwar and Suzanne, yeah?
Yeah. I'll send them a message. I think they're just waiting for the 12 o'clock to happen.
Awesome.
So can everybody hear our conversation now?
Yeah, so there's a few who have just turned up a little bit early. So just for everybody who's here so far, we're going to get started in a little bit. We're just waiting on a couple more to join, but yeah, thanks very much for promptly showing up early, essentially. So yeah, great.
Oh, I can see David. David's come on. Hey, David. Yep, Anwar's just joined.
Hey, Emma, can you hear us?
Yes, Robin, I can. Yep. How are you?
Perfect. Yeah, very good. Thank you. Very good. I think just for clarity, I'd recommend that you change your name. So if you hover over your image, up in the three dots, you should just be able to hit that and just change your name. At the moment, it's showing up as Balandran.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Oh, where do I go to change that?
Hover over your image. There's three dots. You need to click on that, and then you can rename it, or you can do it when you look at the visibility of yourself when you're on the participants on the right-hand side. But the best way is to hover over your image. There's three dots, and you should be able to change your name by clicking on that. And then at the bottom, it says rename.
Where is the three dots?
Just on the
I'll
thumbnail.
change your name for you.
Thanks.
All right. Hi, Suzanne. How are you?
I am well, thank you.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, look, we've just ticked over to 12:02. Apologies for being a little bit delayed, but welcome everybody to the Get Mee Investor Webinar. And thank you very much for attending. I think it's going to be a great webinar and great session to really uncover more about the business. Myself as Robin Holt representing Birchal here, I'm going to be asking a few questions, really taking some questions from everybody throughout this session. And it's really going to be quite open. So for everybody who's in attendance here, we've got a number of questions that we're going through that we've seen, which are quite common throughout any investment round. And we really love and encourage you to ask questions throughout the entire webinar. And we're going to be answering them live here for you. Using the Q&A feature is going to be the absolute best way to do this, and for me to be able to filter through some of these questions and ask the rest of the team. Before we get started, I think it would be great if everybody could just go around and just quickly introduce themselves, just as a starter. So, Aldrin, starting with you.
Thank you very much for having us here, Robin. Good day, everybody. My name is Balendran, but people call me Bala because it's easier to pronounce. I have been the technology entrepreneur over the past 15 years. My background is technology and products. So I came here, I think you would have seen in the intro video, I came here as a refugee, and I've been on a journey to learn and develop my skills. That's where the Get Me idea came from. But I'm passionate about people, and I want to help as many people as possible. That's why I'm on this journey. Thank you very much for joining us as investors. I look forward to working with you all as investors and shareholders. I appreciate all of your support so far.
Fantastic. And Susan, great to meet you.
Yes, I'm Suzanne Northey. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I have been in this field for over 25 years, working a lot with couples and families. And what I have found that is really important in terms of all relationships, both personal and professional, is communication, how well people communicate. And so I'm very excited to be a part of this journey, because if we can change people's communication, help them connect better, understand each other better, then we can really change the world. So I'm very excited and enthusiastic to be a part of this team.
Fantastic, fantastic. And Anwar.
Okay, that's the scary part for me. I'm scared of that, but anyway. My name is Anwar Mohammed. So I've been joined in Get Me since the start date of this, I start once again. Okay. My name is Anwar Mohammed. I'm part of Get Me as a director and the head of operations. My background is, I came from a business background where I have started up a lot of businesses. And recently I just got out of the wine business after running it for 5 years. In the Get Me that we have created is a product that is from our life experience as we are migrant here. When we came here, we have faced a lot of difficulties with communicating with other people. And coming from a country like Bangladesh, English is our second language, but that's where it's come from, that coming up with a product like Get Me that will overcome all the lackings that we faced. And that's where the journey started. And thank investors. But anyway, I'm still struggling talking, but let's see. This is the first one. But
thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Yeah, I'll chip in there, Robin. Anwar has been a friend of mine for almost 20 years now. When I talked about Get Me as a product to change people meaningfully in the way they communicated and expressed themselves around people at home and at work, Anwar connected with the idea because it's a product that would be useful to him. So he decided to come on board, not as a business partner, but decided to invest $250,000. So that's what gave us the 50% of the funding to get the engineering and product development started. So it's great to have Anwar on board.
Fantastic, fantastic. And Anushka.
Hi, everyone. Well, firstly, we're all working at home, so you may hear some background noise because it's office, it's school, it's everything here, as everybody. My name is Anushka. I've had about 20 years of work and life experience across multiple cultures, and I love languages. So English is like my third or fourth language, but it's really. I connected with the message from Bala last year in the first lockdown is when we met, and he talked about the idea of Get Me. My areas of expertise is around cultural intelligence and inclusive leadership, and I've worked a lot with young people as well as the CEO of GQVED and a certified coach. I'm trying to put 25 years here in 5 seconds. So a lot of what Bala told me about Get Me resonated with the work that I was doing, and there is a gap. And if we can help people communicate better using technology as well as the human experience, so the connection of the both, really talk to me, and here I am, and on this journey.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Cool. Look, I mean, everybody has given a quick introduction on the business, and I think now would be just a perfect time for us to really get into the background of GetMe and really explaining and digesting what GetMe is. And of course, Balendran, I can imagine that you'd want to take this, but anybody else who wants to weigh in, I think is going to be beneficial from a diverse response. So go ahead.
Absolutely. I think we will take turns to talk about the product and the idea and where we are going. So in a nutshell, when you talk about communication and personal skills development, people look at it as a framework or a sort of template that contains some videos, some coaching, some books, and anything else they can find online, to go and really look at content that addresses some of their shortcomings. So the idea came last year around how AI could plug that hole. So we can actually deploy technology to discover where people need help and be that ongoing feedback system on the mobile phone that looks at how the conversations are happening and how the customer is expressing and articulating the ideas to be able to meaningfully coach and guide them. So in a practical sense, the AI can look at your conversation on the phone. So you could attach it to a phone call and get feedback on the go around your energy level, your sentiments, and how the other person in the conversation is perceiving you. So in a 2-line description, it is an AI-powered communication and personal development coach that's also supported by human coaches. We brought on today 20 coaches to support the AI. As you can imagine, an advanced AI takes time to mature, and it requires the expertise of human coaches to shape and model and make it work the way we want to implement, practical features. That's why AI and human coaches coming together to give people, for the first time, access to a technology that's going to understand how they're communicating and expressing themselves, and guide and coach them in the area so they can actually become better communicators and better people overall.
Yeah, absolutely. Does anybody else want to elaborate on that? Or, I mean, we've got a couple of other questions, but yeah, go ahead.
I think what I really love about it is, so the AI, the feedback that people will get from the app will show areas of where they could grow in terms of their communication, and then they can go look at the videos. The human coach is giving feedback in those specific areas that they need to work on. So they get the feedback, and then they get some really practical guidance on how to improve. So I just love that piece of it.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a personal coach telling you exactly how to refine your speech, your communication, from a perspective of coming at it. You're not just learning a language, you're learning how you can better communicate and make it easier for yourself and others around you to really, I guess, synergistically communicate from that perspective.
Yeah, that's a key differentiation as well, Robin, because there are language coaching applications. Duolingo is coming to mind when we talk about language teaching, but GetMe is an English coach. GetMe is a communication coach. It looks at how and how you're constructing your communication. What's your energy like? How is the other person receiving your messages? I think that's the gap that we want to plug.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, look, the closer I get to the business, the more I even think about how you can branch out, what other applications you can, or features you can really add to the app. But I mean, your inspiration for it has just been to solve not only your personal issue for other people, but I mean, I'm really keen to know if there's anything else, and really like who your initial target market is outside of just these individuals, because I think that there's so much that can be considered here, and it's not always immediately clear for people to fully understand.
Yep. So like all startups, you start with the vision that might sound like, hey, we want to build a tool that changes the world, that is too broad. So as we worked on the idea and refined the product features, we realized the idea itself is too broad. We need to bring the scope down to one segment. So you would see on the campaign page, for example, we talk about ESL, or English as second language. That is the initial market where we're going to build traction. That includes language schools, universities such as Deakin and Swinburne, and the partnership with Bangladeshi Education Board and an established company there. That's where we're going to build the initial traction and mature the product a little bit before we scale to the other markets. So a lot of the traction will come from our channel partnerships to really give us the firepower before we can go big into the other markets.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, you've got a current pilot underway at the moment. Obviously, you're learning a huge amount from this, and there's going to be valuable feedback, which will further refine exactly where you go from here. I'd really love you to talk through how that feedback is going, what feedback you're getting, how the pilot is going, how big the pilot is, and really kind of talk through some of the key features.
Amazing. A lot of startups don't get this kind of traction where we are getting to pilot a startup product or version 1 with 1,500 students. We have access to 1,500 students from ECA in Australia, Nepal, and India. They're all downloading the app and using it as part of their class activity. It's not that, they advertising the product for students to come and download and, use it. We are really putting it through their class activities. Therefore, they have an AI to practice as part of their classroom activities. The type of feedback we're getting, the app itself's got feedback mechanism. People can actually give us thumbs up or thumbs down, simple things like that. But we have systematically built a feedback form that not only tells us whether the students are liking the features, but how much are they improving. At the end of the 1 month use of the app, for example, they're telling us, yeah, my pronunciation clarity has gone up by 30%, or I'm using 20% more words in my conversations. I am sounding confident and my energy level is up because the AI is giving them the feedback.
Yeah, fantastic.
So the outcome we are looking for, exactly like you said, we want to get really meaningful feedback to improve the product quickly. And we also want to be in a place where I have myself and my team have access to the data to get into the commercial contract negotiation.
Fantastic. And what does that look like? I mean, from a perspective of really looking at the future, you've got that initial pilot underway. What comes after that? I mean, you've got Bangladesh, India, and Australia, where you've got the opportunity to be able to grow, and you've identified this target market, which I think is really effective. What comes after this initial trial? What's the commercial approach?
Yeah, really good question. I think the ECA pilot is important for various reasons for the company. We're really establishing a product that solves people's real problems. In this case, communication and soft skills. So that pilot's got a contract attached to it. Within the 15 days after the pilot finishes, we will go into a contract. Based on the data we see, that contract is going to be formulated in terms of the value, but there's a commercial contract attached to it. We recently signed up another American coaching company that specializes in bringing Indian companies to the US to work with their US clients. So they prep them up for communicating in the US properly, empathy and compassion, all that kind of stuff. So we will be part of their offering. So the staff in India can learn from the human coaches, and they have access to the Get Me AI and the content libraries to take home and practice the skills with. So in the long-term future, I'll let Anwar talk about the Bangladeshi opportunity and what's going to be beyond that. And Anushka would take on the Indian opportunity and talk about how that's going to evolve. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Bala. I'm back again. Okay, so I'll be running the channel partnership with Bangladesh. So I've been working with the country for nearly last 2 years, as we've been dealing with the Ministry of Education and a company who pretty much deals with the education industry daily basis. We're trying to sign a contract with them. So as you know, that Bangladesh is a small country, but we have 166 million people and it's counting daily basis. So it's a big market, and that country, like as I came from there, I would say that we're scared of two things. One is God, and second is talking in English. So you can understand how important communication is. And like when I first came to this country, as I say, we built this product from the heart, from the lackings that we faced. We struggled. I struggled 2 years to understand what my lecturer is saying, the problems I had. So I've been to a lot of failing subjects. I've got to be honest to you guys. I failed 4 out of 4 subjects. Though I came from the background, we used to speak, English was a second language. So it didn't help us. When we came here, the way we talk, the way we communicate with people. So the lacking was there, still we have that. Probably we have improved, but we need some kind of a genuine platform, which is AI. That's how the Get Me was built on, is currently we're gonna offer that facility to people. So Bangladesh is the people we're dealing with currently. They are very curious because this would be the first AI product that will be launched in the country. Yeah. So it's a great momentum for the country. It's like 166 million people. And every time in the board meeting, we talk about, like, if we get 2 to 3% of it, we don't have to look back. This is, we're not trying to be greedy. Just 2% of it. Like, this is, you can literally get 2% out of doing nothing, but we're working hard as a team. And 2% out of 166 million, I'll leave this to the investors to work it out, what we're looking at. In relations to Bangladesh, we're also talking about some other countries as a Southeast part Asia. I don't want to mention the name of the countries as it's just a talking phase at the moment. So for being a person coming from Bangladesh and dealing with the country for the last 25 years, we have better futures just because English is quite important in my country. And so we will be going into 2 phases. So one is the subscription phase. So the company we're going to deal with, so we have a subscription, and it's a one-off payment. So it's an individual subscription and a one-off payment to start with. So for example, a company will come to us and say, we want to use the Get Me platform. They'll give us a yearly subscription fee, which should be a certain amount. Yeah. And we go by individual subscription. So at the moment, we're into talking phase of the subscription fee, because $30 in Australia is probably nothing for us, but it's a big thing for back in the country. But we have 23 million in Australia and we have 166 million back in the country. So even if you offer a subscription for $10 and we capture 10% of the market, and if you compare with Australia, it's a $50 monthly we're collecting. So it's a number of people we have. That's the great asset Bangladesh have, you know, naturally. So sky's the limit, I would say, that to explore Bangladesh and so on to other countries that we have. So yeah.
Yeah, that's really good point, Anwar. One thing I would mention is that we are working with a very established company in Bangladesh to distribute this product through them. So we're not going to be marketing and selling directly. We would have this partner help us with the marketing and sales. That arrangement's got 2 parts. The access fee that they will pay for a limited time. That's a fee that we collect from them upfront, and then a clip of the subscription that comes through the system will go to that.
Fantastic. Was Anushka going to
Yeah, I'm
go
going
over
to
India?
add.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you. I think as an investor, it's giving us a very, very good picture of where this can go. I lived 11 years in China, and I was there from 2001 up to 2011, going into the Beijing Olympics. And China, really, everyone, if you came from overseas, you could speak English, you could teach English. And that was how a lot of people stayed there. And now when you look, the China opportunity is still there. We still value the education outside, and we haven't even talked about that within, as our key strategy. But where we see a lot of growth potential is also India. So I just finished a role as the CEO of the Australia-India Chamber of Commerce, working at the government and industry level. So the population of India is almost 1.4 billion people. And 50% of that is under the age of 25. About 65% of that are under the age of 35. So when we look at the talent pool of the future, when we look at the customer of the future, who are they going to be? They're significantly different to what we're used to in the Western world. So that shows you the landscape of that opportunity. At the same time, 70% of international ventures fail. And the reason they fail is not because there's a wrong contract. I work for a French law firm, so we were working night and day. We did a lot of that, but it was of the cultural differences, not understanding that.
Yeah.
And communication is a key part of that, and words, English words, only represent 7% of the communication. The rest is on your verbal cue, on your energy, on how you understand, and you're being empathetic and you communicate. I mean, you're leaning. I look at you. In some cultures you do that. In other cultures you don't do it. So what Get Me does, it's giving everyone a personal coach. A coach is not accessible easily. You sometimes can't afford it. And if I take this and now bring it to the employer landscape in a workplace, I coach and mentor your execs. They get tapped on the shoulders. There's a budget for that. There's the big group of middle managers who don't get much training. I mean, you go to an Excel training, great. Is that building my confidence to be able to come here and speak, or even to go for that promotion, or to go for the next job interview, to get sponsored within the organization? Get Me allows that. So even as an employer, here's something very accessible, extremely effective and powerful to be able to build engagement. So I see the application everywhere, like really, and it's making it accessible. That's the bit that I really, really like. Getting feedback from AI saying you didn't come across very confident in that conversation removes a lot of that defensiveness that we do have as human. But then also saying you can go and do this course, which is now ready and available on our platform that has been delivered by a human coach. So we're bringing the best of both worlds here. I think the potential is incredible, and there's nothing like this. We've got elements and bits and pieces of this. We got a Siri here, we've got other things, but we do not have Get Me. So I'm extremely excited for what Bala and Anwar created. Their vision is incredible, and that comes from their own personal challenges.
Yeah, thank you, Anwar. Thank you, Anushka. I wanted to add that beyond Bangladesh and India, this product would evolve into a full-blown communication and personal development coach. But it's not only about people with English as their second language. We all do need help. We have to look inside to find out what we've got to improve to escalate ourselves to the next level, because a lot of us think that we are amazing communicators, but when you have a coach objectively looking at how you're communicating and expressing yourself, that's when you figure out, oh my God, I've got to improve. If I want to live the life I want, I've got to improve. So that would drive this product to become the coach that anybody can use. As the technology improves and matures, we would turn this into a full-blown coach. So in addition to Bangladesh and India, we're starting to talk to HR platforms and recruitment platforms. Like Seek is one of them. We are talking to. The idea is that if you're looking for work, you're on Seek, you would have access to the Get Me product. Hey, just go and work on your communication, because if you improve your communication by 10%, your employability goes up by 50%. They're the kind of things that we're looking into to drive more traffic and lead to the Get Me product.
Fantastic. Oh, some really fantastic points. I almost don't know where to go from there. But we've had a few questions which I'd really like to tick off at this point in time. But I actually think that all the points that were made actually almost perfectly led into the breakdown of the commercial strategy. And this is going to, this has already been asked a little bit in the questions, but breaking down the commercial strategy, you've got a bit of an individual and a company focused approach. So in different jurisdictions, is it going to differ? Are you experimenting with both and actually understanding which one works better and then taking that to the next stage? I mean, it's really going to be a constant experimentation, but it sounds like you've got a lot to get out and a lot that you're already working towards. So yeah, it'd be really interesting to dive into that a little bit more.
Yep. So from the very beginning, we really thought the B2C market, where we are targeting people with English as a second language, would take time. We got to market to them on social and Google and SEO, etc. That would come together in time. We've run some experiments to figure out how much money we're going to spend to acquire customers. So we can, even through social, we can acquire customers at a very reasonable rate, under $10 per customer. So that's coming from the experiments we've done with the marketing partner, 3Phase. Amazing firm. They've been helping us with a few different things within the company. But so that's the traditional approach to marketing. We've got a community that's coming together. It's called Melbourne Communication and Personal Development. It's all about building an ecosystem around a product, right? So the product can't exist in a vacuum. So you need community, you need some paid activities on social to bring customers. So the B2C side will continue to grow slowly as we ramp up the marketing expenses. But we see B2C as the main driver of growth in the short term. So companies like ECA, companies like Authentic Journeys and Deakin University to give us that initial bit of traction, and then experiment a bit more with the B2C and grow on that side.
Yeah.
So, as you said, a bunch of experiments. We've already done some, but a lot of it's going to happen over the next few months.
Yeah, fantastic. Now you've had a question here. Actually, you've had a couple of questions here from Shameen. Thank you very much for asking the question. Saying, I've been exploring this topic for a long time and I'm really curious to really get an idea of what would be the most applicable teaching system, such as online or desktop or mobile face-to-face. Of course, Get Me is an app. I'm not sure whether or not you're planning on kind of developing it further from just an app, whether or not there might be integrated one-on-one sessions that people can book, but I'd love you to maybe further explain that point.
Yeah, excellent. I'll start that and then I'll get Anwar or Suzanne to chip in as well. So the desktop application is in the pipeline because we're now talking to the school systems in New South Wales. Virginia Judge, who was the Minister for Fair Trading, has joined the team as a commercial advisor. So she's gone, instead of selling to individual schools, we go to the high level and talk to them about giving students as young as 12, 13 access to the platform so they can start learning about emotional skills much earlier, not when they're 26 and failing in life or struggling. We start teaching them communication and emotional skills much earlier. So as part of that initiative, we would have to build a desktop version because students may not be able to use the mobile phone within the classroom. So that would happen organically as we go along because there's a demand for it. But in the first version, customers would have access to the AI-powered coach on the mobile phone, and then they would have access to the content libraries with fabulous content, fresh content, weekly coming from our 20 coaches. That number is going to grow to 50 by the end of the year. So people would have access to the AI skills development coach and video libraries to learn the concepts and ideas.
Fantastic.
Do you want to add anything to that, Suzanne?
I think what I really love about this app is, what the AI is really going to be able to measure is the things that are most important in terms of our communication in our careers and our relationships. And that is looking at things like, how do you measure empathy? How do you measure, respectfulness, that kind of thing, clarity of words, all these things that I think are really essential in terms of our success in our lives and our relationships. And I love the idea of, it's coach in your pocket. Wherever you go, you've got that, you've got the accessibility. And so my role really with Get Me is to help merge, to look at the research and product and how does that connect with what people really need in terms of communication. So it's fun to build on that. And I think I feel like, I look at things like, for example, a lot of people can't afford, for example, a life coach or a therapist, but this is a very affordable option to really learn the same things you would get face-to-face with a therapist or a coach. And you could take it with you everywhere. I think about people that are getting life coaching services, for example. They might talk to a life coach once a week, but you've got Get Me 24/7. That's a great feature.
Yeah, Suzanne has been with the company for 15 months now. She joined the early days to make sure that we are looking at the problem logically, not going on this journey to build a technical tool that doesn't really address a customer need. So Suzanne has been instrumental in guiding and directing the research side of the product and also the engineering side.
Fantastic.
Can I add something as well?
Go for it. Yeah.
Okay, so this is something that I think all the investors should know, along and the team members too, that my daughter is going to high school next year. And one of the private school, I don't want to mention the name, but I'll be paying $4,500 yearly for personal development. This is beside the actual fees for study for 12 months. So $4,500 yearly for personal development. So as going back to Suzanne, when she said that this Get Me will financially help people to have a coach, not to pay a top dollar to have somebody to improve themselves. But so I'll be one of the victims who will be paying $4,500 for my daughter next year.
Yep.
But I don't have any escape plan of it. So, but the great part, the good news for the investor is that the school is trying to have a meeting with us to sign up something. They have a plan to have a commercial relationship with us, but let's see what happens. But in the meantime, I've got to pay the $4,500 for my daughters to get in first. That has to come out first before we can plan for anything else. So I thought I'd share that information. That is one of the private school, I believe. Rest of the private school will acquire that same plan. But Get Me have a better future because this school wants to roll out this PD platform for other private schools. So we have a better hope with the product.
I might add, I've got a daughter as well. We need to get that school on board. But in my first 4 years in Australia, I was the CEO of the Duke of Edinburgh's Award, which is a program. We basically say it's the life skill, it's a certificate for your life skill because it's the all-roundedness of the person. And definitely accessibility, affordability was one of the key drivers of the work we were doing. So for me, when Bala talked to me, the first thing that came to mind is, okay, it's time to reactivate the network. It's time to go back to, and I think whether it's, at the top level of government, to get something like this into every school. It's confidence that we are building. And when you look in Australia, we've got 49% of the population have at least one parent born overseas. In Victoria alone, we speak more than 300 languages. And you may be very well skilled. If you're not confident in being able to communicate that, it limits your employability from day one and throughout your career. So the application of Get Me is incredible. The commercial side of it, of course, represents a huge potential, but then there is such a massive social impact. that we will be able to have uplifting. And as AI grows, human intelligence needs to grow, communication skill needs, because all these soft skills are actually the hard skills that are harder to learn, harder to measure. GetMe gives us a way to do that. 24/7, as Suzanne said.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, even when you're talking about this, I think there's so many variables to it. And this is what I have loved about working with Balendran more closely on the capital raise, is the more that I learn about the business, the more applications I find it's suited to, whereby you've got all these different options as a business and you've just got to choose your path. But essentially, there's a number of different paths and you're going after a number of different jurisdictions. So, I mean, I think, and we've got a really quick question here from Shamim before we do switch to a slightly different question that's come through. But Shamim's just asked, which version of English are you going to teach? Is it US or UK? And perhaps, I mean, you could choose both, but yeah, I'd love you to answer.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So the AI can be trained to understand the different nuances of the different, versions of English.
Yeah.
Initially, because we're targeting Australia, Bangladesh, and India, the AI has been trained in the UK English, but the American version would have the American accent incorporated. And in the future, we will be able to give people to choose the version they want. But version 1 would have the UK English incorporated, and then progressively we would start introducing the other variants.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure it will make it much easier to roll out in a country which was more specific to. I remember a Delta flight was delayed one time and it was voice activated, and unless I used an American accent, it didn't work. So that was a really fun time. But look, I mean, moving through, I think one of the questions which you've had before is about competition in the space. I think, it's really important. Of course, you'd mentioned that you haven't found anything quite like this. What do you think people are using currently? And what other, competitors have you found in this space and to be potentially applicable for your ideal user?
Absolutely. I think if we said there is no competition, I think we would be lying. There is always competition, regardless of what venture you get into. So we've got smaller players like Elsa Speak and Ori. They focus on aspects of communication very narrowly, whether it's pronunciation, helping people improve pronunciation. That's what Elsa does. They dominate in Vietnam. They're funded by Vietnamese VCs, therefore they're quite big there. And then Aura is a public speaking coach. It just helps you overcome your nerves when you're starting to speak in front of people. There is nothing like what we're building in the world that looks at communication and soft skills development end to end. If you look at the features we've got within the technology, people can attach the phone call and get the ongoing feedback. So the effort for the user to use the app is very minimal. A lot of the startups with mobile app products tend to lose momentum because the app requires a lot of user motivation, right? So that's why the number of features we have in there. So a customer can go into a contact and call using GetMe, similar to how they call through WhatsApp. So the GetMe call feature will be there. So they just press on it to make a call and get the feedback they need. So it's an ongoing learning as opposed to user having to open the app and start practicing with the AI. So there's a little bit of competition, but because of the patent we filed and how aggressively we can tweak the technology and stay ahead of the competition, I think that's what's going to give us the edge. And I think we're well placed to continue to innovate on what we've built already.
Yeah, fantastic. Fantastic. And look, I mean, we've kind of already talked about this a little bit, but I mean, you've talked about different variations of English. I know that you've got, a huge addressable market, and as you have users come on board, how easy would it be to optimize it for somebody who wanted to maybe speak Spanish as another incredibly very well used second most spoken language. But yeah, I mean, from that perspective, how easy would it be?
Yeah, South America is a key market for us. I think we've done a lot of research around where we want to go next. The AI models and the processes and the algorithms understand English now, because the models know what English language structure looks like, and how to parse sentences and words and make sense out of them. In the future, we could train the models to understand Spanish, for example. You train the models using Spanish data sets, so it understands the logical structures of Spanish. So it would require a little bit of work, but the models would work with any language, but we need to retrain and redeploy to that market.
Yeah, fantastic. And yeah, we've had a great question here, which Anushka, I already heard you kind of talking about, but somebody's really asked about how the products would be rolled out in India, and what the strategy is for this. So yeah, I'm sure looking forward to your answer very much so.
I think also in Anwar's question, going through channel would probably be our best bet. We've got the relationship with those who are servicing our key market, be it universities, be it larger employers. So using those channels, we can target into India. And going into India, understanding that it is a long-term game, that you build the relationship, and lucky for us, we've got existing very, very strong networks. I think going into the country poses similar kind of choices we have to make here. Do you go B2B, do you go B2B2C, or do you go B2C? I think we are at this point of actually having many choices. Which one we pick strategically is where the board gets together and put our heads together. The application is there, the need is there, and we've got the reach. So it will be rolling out, I would say, based on what we have been doing so far through channel partners to start with.
Yeah, excellent. I think it's important to highlight that we've got a local partner we have got as a shareholder. They been working with us for 18 months. We've got 7 engineers, AI engineers and backend engineers working on the product full time from all across India and New Zealand. So that partnership is really solid. They hold a significant percentage of the company as equity. Therefore, we have the networks established already. So when it comes to launching there, we do have the support of the local partners and influencers like Anushka to leverage.
Fantastic. Yeah, fantastic. I mean, there's
and in India, if I may add, having that localized presence is invaluable. It's keys to success. We know that.
Yep.
And Bala is, and they're very, very part of the organization of every development. So yeah, it's very strong.
Fantastic. Yeah. I mean, you made a point earlier, which I really think is just so key to businesses when they grow and they expand overseas, is the cultural understanding of what fits and what makes sense and how it's going to work and operate in that market. And if people don't get that right, of course, it's not going to be received well, because culturally you have to be able to understand what you're coming into, how you need to behave, how you need to approach differences. And of course, even, I mean, look, I speak from a little bit of personal experience coming from England to Australia. You would think that they were very similar. They are so different from a working habit perspectives. And I mean, how people operate is very different. So yeah, it's even more so when you go into different spoken, different languages which people speak overseas. But yeah, I mean, from that perspective, I think yeah, it's a really really interesting, and there's just so many opportunities for the application itself. We've actually had a question here from Wawand, who said, it seems that the initial target market is educational institutions. Imagine GetMe would branch out down the track and but how do you plan on entering other markets and other industries potentially? I know that we've already touched on this, but yeah, maybe there's other details that we haven't really explored just yet, as of yet.
Yep. So the product will mature over a period of time. That's where the ECA trial and the Bangladeshi rollout will play a key role in going into additional markets, such as we're talking about therapists using the product to coach their customers. They're all different products on their own. So as a startup, you start with a blueprint and go into one market, and then pivot and build additional products. So, but the good thing that we've done so far is to build a solid base that can go into different markets and become completely different products. So at the moment, we've got the communication and personal development coach that looks at the language and the communication style and the nuances to be able to help. But in the future, that can be applied to a therapy environment or a classroom as a virtual teacher. They're the things that we will be looking at in the future, but the base is really solid, so we can actually build different versions of it.
Yeah, fantastic. Fantastic. And Shamim here has said you can have a lot of, I'm sure you can grab ideas from Elsa, which is, I'm sure, an app that you've heard of. They're not quite happy with the features yet, which of course probably provides you with a pathway to onboard GetMe. But yeah, I mean, highlighting that there are some other good apps in the market. I'm sure, as you've already highlighted some of these. And even when I hear, and obviously having worked with you closely, I almost consider it like a Grammarly, but for spoken communication in a sense. But even Grammarly itself isn't that perfect as an application, but it's had significant growth because everybody, even people who speak that given language, still need a helper. They still want someone or a computer application to be able to just state exactly what is correct and true for them. So I think that that's almost quite a similar comparable that you might be able to make in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you can think about how Grammarly highlights grammatical errors and typos, that's a big part of a writer's life. If you're writing emails, Grammarly is there reminding, there's a structural issue. They make a big difference on the other side when someone reads your content. So GetMe will be that, so your sentence structures are not correct. You're not sounding energetically, in the right spectrum. You're sounding passive, or your words are negative. All those things would continuously help the customer look at the areas of their patterns. These are patterns that we've built over so many years. We don't even know our patterns. So GetMe is going to make them become aware of some of the patterns and then use the coach to improve the areas.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And look, for anybody who has any other questions, as we do come up to the towards the end of the webinar, I'd really encourage you to ask some of these questions. Of course, we're opening up the investment offer fairly soon. We are looking to open up the investment offer for GetMe at the moment, it's going to be the 14th of September, Tuesday. So just in order to, of course, because there's so much happening and kind of moving, and I know that you've got investor conversations concluding and getting all the offer document preparation completed. We've just decided to go with the 14th of September for an offer launch. So for everybody who's here, I'm sure that almost everybody who is here has expressed interest to invest into the offer. If you haven't already, I'd highly encourage you to do this, just so that you can be on that investor list, so that you can gain early access to the investment offer. And of course, review the offer document and learn more about the company at that stage. But from a perspective of, and I had a question around acquiring customers, but I feel like you've gone into so much depth on this and really explained it in so much detail. Are there any other milestones in the business that you've achieved so far that maybe we haven't talked about, just from a perspective of progression? And I think leading into that, it would be great to break down almost a percentage of allocation of where the funds are going for this capital raise.
Excellent question, Robin. We've made so much progress since we started the engineering process. We've had 25 beta customers helping us with the definition of requirements and also design of the features, and they've been testing the product. So we made sure from the very beginning we focused on market research to really understand if there's a need for a product like GetMe, what the market size was. Because a lot of the time startups end up assuming the market size and how many customers they're going to have, and without really realizing the problem is different to what your product is going to be, right? So from the very beginning, we focused on market research, so sitting down with ideal customers to looking at the overall market before we started building the product. So we started back in April, May, the actual build. So far we've got the version 1 out with testers. There's a patent that's been filed to protect the idea. The patent is all about how we apply certain technologies like deep learning and natural language processing to really deconstruct the conversation and start building logic on top to build profile of word strength. What's your word strength? If you're trying to become a manager, but you're currently a team member, your vocabulary has to evolve, right? So they're the things that we focused on, and the MVP is out. The patent protects the application of AI and the different technologies that should give us the edge going ahead, because the way the phone calls get assessed and the actual conversations get assessed, there's nothing like that. We're in PCD stage now, and the investment round closed where we had 6 angel investors commit $550,000. Now we've signed on another partner in the US called Authentic Journeys. So they're going to be rolling out the product to their customers that wasn't covered in the pitch or the video. And we're talking to a number of universities now. The Swinburne University conversation is progressing nicely. And then we're talking to Seek about potential integration into their platform.
That would be huge.
Exciting times ahead. We've got 145 investors, I think, nominating themselves through Birchal platform. Thank you very much. It's a great validation, and our heart warms thinking about how people are connecting with our message and what we want to do to help people improve their personal skills. Thank you very much, and we look forward to having you all as investors and shareholders to really take me to where it deserves to go.
Yeah, fantastic. I think that's a brilliant summary. And for anybody who's attending, please do ask any questions if they haven't already been answered. But I think I'll just throw over to anybody else here and just ask if there's anything that maybe we haven't discussed that you feel is really beneficial for any potential investors to know at this point in time about GetMe. Nothing else? Well, fantastic. Look, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been really enjoyable to have this conversation. It's been great working with GetMe. I really hope everybody can join in on the investment offer when it does open. We're really excited to see you there. And of course, anybody who has any questions around equity crowdfunding can reach me. I will follow up with my details, so anybody can reach out to me after this. And of course, we'll send you a recording in case you want to watch any other details of the webinar again. So look, thank you very much, everybody, for attending, and thank you to the GetMe team.
Thank you very much for hosting us, Robin. Thank you, everybody.
Of course. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you. Thank you,
Take
everyone.
care.
We look forward to having you in the mix for this exciting journey. Thank you, Robin.
Definitely.
Thank you, Robin.
Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks very much for attending. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.